What's up, everybody? We have an interesting conversation today, and let's get straight to it. Doctors in China removed 28 pounds of feces from the bowels of a man who was reportedly constipated since birth. There is his 28-pound poop baby. The unnamed 22-year-old had 30 inches of his grossly enlarged bowel removed by surgeons at 10th People's Hospital in Shanghai, China. It's believed that the young man had Hirschsprung's disease, which causes the bowels to swell because the nerves that are supposed to control the gut are missing. And take a look at that poop pocket right there. This happy doctor, his proud 28-pound baby of poop. Oh my God. Now, what is Hirschsprung's disease? Hirschsprung's disease from the Mayo Clinic is a condition that affects the large intestine or colon and causes problems with passing stool. The condition is present at birth and as a result of a missing nerve cell in the muscles of the baby's colon. Whew, could you imagine growing this beautiful poop baby since the day you were born? Ouch, that is crazy. Reminds me of that South Park episode where Randy is competing against Bono for the world's biggest poop. Now, what I find interesting about this, we've all heard the rumors of John Wayne with 40 to 60 pounds of fecal matter, impacted fecal matter at the time of his death. Well, that is not necessarily true, and that's been debunked to a large degree simply because John Wayne, as New York Times reports, did not actually have an autopsy. Although John Wayne, and this is back from June 11th of 1979, John Wayne, the Hollywood actor, died 5:23 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time on June 11th at UCLA Medical Center. The cause of death was complications from cancer. You see, John Wayne was hospitalized for the treatment of cancer in his lower abdomen since May of that year, when he was admitted for his second cancer operation later that year. His lower intestine was partially removed in that operation. Now, anecdotal evidence states that there was a massive bulk of impacted fecal matter at the time of this operation. Sounds familiar. Now, Mr. Wayne's second bout with cancer began earlier in the year with what was officially described as a routine gallbladder operation when he entered the medical center in January. 2 days later, his stomach was removed in a 9-hour operation when a low-grade cancerous tumor was discovered. Now, we're going to take a little leap here because John Wayne was suffering from a very, very painful bout of cancer. And due to this, he was likely, most definitely, taking pain medicine. Now, health.harvard.edu tells us that all opioids, all pain medicine causes constipation. Now, unfortunately, John Wayne, he's suffering from the painful effects of cancer, and more specifically, cancer of his digestive region. So the 60 possible pound leap of impacted fecal matter, that might not be true, but anywhere in the range of 10 to 30 pounds, because here's a young man with a 28-pound poop bag, not to be disrespectful, but John Wayne, who was on pain medicine, who did have a lower abdominal issue, of which part of his lower intestine was actually, his large intestine was removed. Anecdotal evidence does state that he had a massive amount of impacted fecal matter during that time. Now, the tissue that lines the intestines and the intestines themselves are approximately 5 feet. Okay, and the average amount of fecal matter that the intestines can hold is anywhere between 5 to 10 pounds per foot. So, if you have 5 feet times 5 to 10 pounds, you could actually have 25 to 50 pounds of impacted fecal matter. That's a pretty interesting thing. Now, different resources hypothesize that the average person has anywhere between 7 to 12 pounds of impacted matter in their body at any given moment. You think when you leave the pasta house, how much is actually there? Could be quite a bit. Now we're going to jump to Mr. Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley also notoriously died on the toilet. Rather embarrassing. But what goes further is Elvis was also suffering from extreme bouts of constipation, likely due to his painkiller addiction, overprescription of painkillers. Now his doctor, Dr. Nicholas, who was at first brought up on charges for overprescribing pain pills to Elvis and was found not guilty, had said that during the last few years, we were going back and comparing photos of Elvis. Some were taken just 2 weeks apart, but he looked like he gained 20 pounds when the only difference was that he had a good, healthy bowel movement and then lost a lot of weight from that. So what this Dr. Nick is saying is that Elvis's weight would swing up and down 20 pounds based upon his bowel movements. The Daily Mail had said here that, and this is another report of what Dr. Nicholas had said, that the autopsy, now Elvis did in fact have an autopsy, and Elvis's autopsy found that his colon to be 5 to 6 inches in diameter compared to the average of 2 to 3 inches. So the average human has 2 to 3 inch in diameter colon, Elvis had 5 to 6. And rather than the standard 4 to 5 feet, Elvis was 8 to 9 feet long. That's pretty intense. Now, Snopes had done some work a while back trying to debunk the John Wayne issue. And they come up with some, pretty good points that it was, asserted that Wayne had 40 pounds of impacted fecal matter. It's possible 40, 60, even 80 is possible. But more than likely, it was probably in that 15 to 30 pound range. What Snopes did say, based upon Elvis Presley's autopsy, is the colon is approximately 5 to 7 feet in length in a person of Elvis's size and should have been 2 inches in diameter. However, Elvis's colon was at least 3.5 inches in diameter in some places and as large as 4.5 to 5 inches in diameter. Elvis's megacolon was jam-packed from the base of the descending colon all the way up and across and halfway across the transverse colon. It was filled with white, chalk-like fecal matter. Now, it was said by multiple sources, reported by multiple sources, that Elvis had 20 pounds of impacted fecal matter at the time of death as a result of his autopsy. Yikes. So I want to bring this back now, and we want to talk here for a second about digestive health. There's Elvis, there's his doctor, and there's a few of Elvis's friends. Now we think about this, and we think about, well, how does that affect us? Digestive health, ladies and gentlemen, is everything. We might not be aware of how our food actually affects our general health and well-being. Well, Hippocrates had said many, many, many years ago that all disease starts in the gut. Well, you can kind of see that this is actually a pretty good thing. Now, medical science had veered away from that conversation for quite some time, and now we were all coming back to that fact that health and disease can oftentimes be controlled and affected by the gut. Yeah, this is, when I was doing this research, and Elvis Presley died of an embarrassing case of chronic constipation. Now, unfortunately, what it was said that Elvis was just too much of a proud man to admit that he might have an issue back in the 70s. 1977, you don't talk about your poop, right? You don't talk about being constipated. And evidently, the king, Elvis, did not talk about that. He probably should have. he probably should have brought it up. Now, this is for Dr. Merkin, his site. He goes on to say that Elvis's personal physician, Dr. Nick, claimed that the chronic constipation killed Elvis. The autopsy showed that his colon was full of more than 30 pounds of feces. Chronic constipation enlarges your colon, and Elvis' colon was twice as long and twice as wide as the normal colon. Now, this is a scary thing, right? As we go back again to this photo, and we'll scroll down here just a little bit. Yikes! This actually could be, this is the 30 inches of the affected part of this gentleman's colon. So this is 2.5 feet approximately, right? And what we said earlier, we said the colon can hold 5 to 10 pounds, some say 5 to 15, of impacted fecal matter. Well, here's 30 inches, that weighs 28 pounds. So I'd say this is spot on correctly. Now back to you. Your choices affect your health. Your choices affect your wellness. Your choices affect your life. We must take care of ourselves. We must be aware of our digestive health. We must stop consuming synthetic processed foods. We must make our way back to eating earth-grown foods, real foods, healthy foods, clean foods. We must avoid, to the best of our ability, unless medical necessity creeps in, we must avoid prescription drugs. We must avoid taking any of these synthetic chemicals because we have a clear picture here of what this can actually do. 28 pounds of impacted fecal matter inside of this young man. How much do you think is inside of you right now? Think back to the foods that you've eaten. Think back to the chemicals that you've consumed. Think back to your tummy aches, to your upset stomach, to the times that you feel bloated, to your irregular bowel movements. Have you ever taken a bowel movement, stood up and actually looked at it, looked in the toilet, hopefully use a toilet, looked in the toilet to see what you've done? Have you looked at the size? Have you looked at the consistency? Have you looked at the color? Have you looked at the regularity of these things? Your fecal matter should look about the same, and it should be about the same size. Your fecal matter should pretty much just fall out. I call it the Holy Grail. It's the single wipe. That's our goal at the Dolce Diet. We're looking for the single wipe. We're looking for such clean, efficient bowel movements that you need a single sheet of toilet paper, or baby wipes for those of us who are enlightened, a single swipe to get that little bit of residue off, and we are clean, we are done, we are up and at it, out of the way. Now, if you're spending a lot of time cleaning up that dirty, disgusting mess, you might have a worry, you might have an issue. Now, if you have irregular bowel movements, if you have more than 3 bowel movements per day, if you have not had a bowel movement in 3 days, go to the doctor and get checked out. If your bowel movements are of odd colors, go to the doctor and get checked out. If your bowel movements are extremely narrow, like pencil thin, go to the doctor and get checked out. If your bowel movements are consistently broken in small little chunks, go to the doctor and get checked out. One of the first signs of disease can be noted in bowel movements. Now, not all, but if your bowel movements start to change, you go to the doctor and you get checked out. If for nothing else, just for peace of mind and to rule out any possible issue. Ladies and gentlemen, I leave this picture here for you to look at. 28 pounds of impacted fecal matter. This was inside a 22-year-old man. Insanity. Do not let this happen to you. Let this video scare the heck out of you. Let this video be a call to start treating your body better, to start taking better care of yourself, to start eating better foods, cleaner foods. Do not pollute your body. Do not be the proud parent of a 28-pound poop baby. Leave your comments below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Go to thedolcediet.com for over 1,000 free news items, recipes, workout programs, tips, tricks, motivations behind the scenes. And until next time, we will talk to you. Boom!